Hello. Welcome to the fifth Net That Haul Compass show of the 21-22 season. We're going to be reflecting on game week 2. There's still 20 minutes of the Leicester West Ham game running for anyone who wants to timestamp where we are at the start of the week with our initial thinking. And then as we navigate towards game week 3, obviously there'll be the matchups show as well on Thursday with Gabe and Mariner. So I'm Nima. I'm joined by my co-host and fellow Fantasy Football Hub writer, Hibbo. How are you, mate?
I'm okay. I would be better if I owned Ben Rama, I think.
It's not a good time to be going live on stream while knowing Ben Rama's still racking up the points, is it?
Definitely. Like you know yourself, I started the season with Buendia. I know we're going to get on the teams and stuff in a minute, but it's not looking a good early decision for like me fourth midfielder, really, when I could have had Ben Rama. He seemed obvious and he scored well, obviously, but we'll get onto the teams and stuff like that shortly.
Yeah, we will. I guess just to announce the very exciting news, those of you who know me, I've opened the next bottle of champers to celebrate. So for podcast listeners, we've just found out today that we're actually finalists in the Football Content Awards, and we're in the Fantasy Football category for video. So there's 9 kind of shows chosen, and we're incredibly proud to be there. Thank you all for voting for us in the preliminary round and nominating us. We will put a link in the YouTube description and podcast description. So if you guys wouldn't mind having a look, if you enjoy our show and are a hauler, give us a vote. And then we'd also appreciate a vote for our partners, Surya, and obviously the team over at All About FPL for the editorial category. But let's get some housekeeping out of the way. So thank you for all the new viewers tonight. Let's also remember to hit the like button and hit subscribe. We know that the onesie is always there as a 50 like forfeit. It's always waiting. And for anyone who's watching on the VOD version, so afterwards and not live, we want to start a new thing where you can share your kind of Game Week 2 score, any questions you might have on that you need answering for Game Week 3, and actually leave them in the comments in the YouTube video afterwards, and we'll kind of come back and make sure we answer those going forwards.
Yeah, so now you're talking in terms of the Money League code. So if you're listening on podcast, the code is FG1 XNB, and just with in terms of prizes for that, the first prize is a mystery box from at Shirtlet Box. The second prize is a copy of FPL Obsessed by Matt Whelan, and the third prize is premium annual membership to Fantasy Football Fix. In terms of the podcast, so we've passed 4,000 downloads now. We're nearly at 4,500 in podcast. We're only active now on the podcast platform since April, so I think it's fairly good going. We're available wherever you get your pods, and if you're listening on Apple, a 5-star review is much appreciated because it helps us grow. It costs you nothing, and it helps us grow together. So,
yeah, no, thank you. So I guess what I do want to also say is that we're going to probably close entries to the mini league after the first or second international break. So do go and check out the new recent at Net That Whole Twitter account we created for all 4 of the guys on the show, and the pinned tweet is about entering the mini league. So just want to say hi to everyone who's here before we go right into our game week review then and start the show. So we always like to say hi to the YouTube listeners who are here live with us at the time. So hi, Blue Danube guy. Nice to see you back. Dread FPL, I'm looking forward to seeing you for the Arsenal City game and Liverpool Chelsea game on Saturday. So that will be fun with Tom from Who Got the Assist. It's going to be a good timing of some FPL heads. Rubber Ducky, afternoon, but evening. Nice one. Dread celebrating the Ben Rama goal, by the way. So I'm very happy with that myself too. Thank you, Bongo. So Bongo has been helping us with moderating all the way over from Tokyo. So he is up at an insane hour to kind of support the team. And if any other haulers want to get involved and be part of the show, let us know. Adam, evening, mate. And then Ash. So Ash, thank you as well. Ash has been a good supporter from afar. He's been watching us and basically mainly the main Premier League show and all the big names like Southern. So I feel honored that he's here, but he's actually at my wedding a few weeks ago, Hibbo. So
nice.
He's actually the husband of one of Jazz's good childhood friends, and turns out he's a massive Liverpool fan. So let's be careful what we say.
I'll not hold that against them anyway.
That's good. So let's, I guess, let's go straight into our teams then. So I guess right now, I don't know what my current live rank is because the game is still running, but last I checked, I was on, I think, 78 points, and I'm sitting at about 13.3k OR. How are you getting on, Hibbo?
Well, not too bad. So, I'm sitting at the minute on 67 points, so a fairly template team. I was at about overnight. I was on 106k, and obviously Antonio's an extra 5 points, but at the same time, I'm really regretting not going for Ben Rama. Like, I'm losing ground to Ben Rama owners here tonight, like, but no, definitely the move I'll be looking at this week in terms of my team, as I'm definitely kind of looking at Buendia, the Ben Rama. It seems very obvious.
Yeah, no, I can understand why you'd want to do that, especially with what we've seen from Villa. I think they were actually lowest for non-penalty XG over the first two. It is obviously a small sample size, but it is definitely a worrying trend, and the fixtures do soon turn. So, just for the podcast listeners, I'm going to read out my team from the back. So I have Sanchez in goal, Simicas, Trent, and Shaw, with Salah captain, Fernandez, Greenwood, and Ben Rama, who's still playing, Antonio, Ings, and Tony. So I'm really excited about this. I had saved 2 free transfers. I don't really know what I'm going to do now. There was talks of kind of Salah missing game week 4, maybe 5 with international duty and quarantine. That's been dispelled today. So that kind of Salah and Tony to Son plus Calvert-Lewin is not looking as appealing. And with COVID, the international travel, the uncertainty around the rules, I'll probably just use the 1 free transfer, I think, Hibbo, and roll out the same 11, bar 1 change to my bench, which might be like Simicast to another 4 million enabler just to not burn a transfer. And I think having 2 free transfers after the internationals could be good for my team. But yeah, that's kind of me. I'm very happy with the 78 points. So
Yeah,
what about you? How are you feeling?
just flick over to my slide and I'll just talk to podcast listeners through my team from kind of back to front. So, like, on goal, obviously, if Sanchez, Samaka, Shaw, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Greenwood in midfield. I think he's been Antonio goal, absolutely brilliant. I needed an Antonio return to win a head-to-head match in a big money league, so I'm happy with that. So we've got Greenwood, Buendia, Fernandez, Mo Salah captain, which didn't work out, but it was a case of right decision, wrong outcome, I'm going to say. I've got Tony up front, Ings and Antonio. So the same as yourself, I've got 2 free transfers. I'm looking basically at moving Buendia to Ben Rama. So if I'm trying to catch you up, I'm not going to do it very fast because you've obviously already made that ground. But I don't think I can ignore Ben Rama any longer. And they've got, I think, Crystal Palace at home in the week coming. So I think it's a fairly obvious move and it's one that I'm going to make.
I think they have Southampton after that potentially. So it's a good couple of games ahead for them, that's for sure. So I guess just going straight into the review then. So we'd like to kind of talk a little bit about what we've seen so far from the matches. Obviously, there is one still running, and Antonio's goal is incredible news. And I can't wait till live FPL stops crashing and tells me if I'm in the top 10K this early in the season, but let's wait and see. So we're going to go through the reviews, and we focused on really amazing graphics that Hibbo's actually made. I think these are an improvement on any of the previous iterations we've had. So do let us know what you think in the comments about the new graphics and if they stand out a bit more. We're going to talk about each match, and then we're going to go into the questions we got through Twitter. So topical stuff, trends that are relevant for Game Week 3 right now, and then some live Q&A just to interact with everyone. So I'm just going to go straight into kind of the big game, the first one. The Gandhi says never captain the early kickoff. How do you feel about this Liverpool 2 Burnley 0 game?
Yeah, so I'll just jog through just the score and stuff like that. So obviously Liverpool won 2-0. Liverpool had an XG of 2.78 and Burnley had an XG of 0.72. Now, Jota and Mane got the goals, Simicas and Trent Arnold got the assists. Mo Salah, as we know, was fairly heavily captained. Now, I think amongst the elite 1,000 managers on the FPL review, he was captained by 97%, which was...
That's right.
Staggering, really. Like, he had a goal ruled out for offside and he also had an effort cleared off the line. I actually listened to the game on the radio as opposed to watching the game, and it sounded to me as if Liverpool could have won 5-0. Jota obviously scored for the second game week running. Mane netted 2. Simicas got the assist, as we know, and had double-digit returns, which I think is good for us in terms of a value perspective because it looks as if you're going to touch on it, I'm sure, in your section on transfer trends. But casuals are still snapping Simicas up, which is good for us because we want that second raise. But it looks now with Robertson back on the bench as if this could be the end of the road really for Simicas, so people will be looking to jump off. Now, in terms of the stats, I focused on Mo Salah really. So he had 1 shot on target. He created 2 chances. He had 3 points on the day. He had an expected goal involvement of 0.7 and his expected points were 5.5. So I kind of feel as if Salah captainers can feel themselves a wee bit unlucky because obviously we know Bruno blanked and Marner was dead against Bruno and his captaincy metric. So I think what we're doing at Net That Hall, it's good in terms of the captaincy, and I think it was maybe a missed opportunity to go further ahead for Salah captainers.
I think so. What I want to say as well. So someone recently told me the rumors about needing an interpreter have come back, and I never believed them until I just thought you said Mane, but you were actually saying Mariner said Bruno was bad on the metric, and I thought you were talking about Mane for a second. So it's I know you're our general, the net that whole general, the Irish charm is here, but it's thick
Well,
for some people.
it could be Mane because Mane had an opportunity to play Salah and he turned it down. As you know, there's always this kind of FPL folklore that Mane doesn't like the pass, but there were opportunities they slip him in a couple of times, so.
You've seen the photo, right, where Salah's clear. Like all Mane had to do was tap it to him and just
Yeah.
tap the ball, and no way, Jose. So yeah, I think we know that the rumors of Mane and Salah not wanting to pass to each other so they can usurp each other's goal tally at the end of the season. It still looks like that rumor is very much alive and real. How
I
did
think
you feel then in this game? So you were saying obviously the Trent and Tsimikas double up. I think that was incredible value. What I will say is the debate originally, right, was about the free Liverpool spots and
yeah.
whether kind of Jota was better than having Tsimikas. I think Tsimikas obviously outscored him in this spell. I think he got 18 points to his 16 or something, so it's not, or maybe 15. It's not a big difference. Do you think that at this point though that Jota could be a kind of exciting option to go back to if you were moving Tsimikas on?
Well, firstly, Antonio's made it 4-1 and Kuffel's got an assist here. So look, it looks as if
Kufel's got
Antonio.
an assist too. Wow.
So it looks as if Antonio's really hacked up and he's been so impressive in terms of his expected goal involvement. But no, they touch on what you're saying about the Liverpool options. What I think is the Tsimikas, Trent Arnold, Salah was obviously it was the right way to go. What I will say is, I think you're in a better position than me because I have to use a transfer to say move Buendia Ben Rama, but you have an opportunity to maybe get off Tsimikas and free up that third Liverpool spot if you need it down the line. What I will say about Jota is we know that Salah and Mane are maybe they're going to the African Cup of Nations at some point. Now, if it looks like they're going to miss any kind of game time, I think we need to be getting Jota for that period.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards as well. So we'll see what happens with the news later in the week. I think they're going to update the amber countries and the travel bans for the red countries. So we'll see how that goes. But it sounds like there might be a lot of phantom injuries, as we kind of called last week, or clubs taking a fine over being willing to let a player go and quarantine for 10 days, I guess.
It sounds to me as if clubs might. It sounds to me as if clubs can't stand a player's way from going on international duty. But if it's a case that the player's going to a red list country and he's going to have to quarantine when he comes back, it nearly seems more like a political issue. And I don't know. I kind of think at this stage, Premier League should be working with government to come to some kind of agreement because I know previously these players were in an elite player kind of bubble as such. Can you have Premier League players of this standing missing game time due to quarantine when they weren't before? I don't know. Personally, I
When
don't
they
think so.
weren't, when the world was in a worse situation, yeah.
But
It's a difficult one.
how do you define a bubble? Because like Richarlison was away on Olympic duty and he was deemed to be in a bubble, but surely like these international teams can maintain that all our players are in a strict bubble as well. So
With
I
all
don't
their
know.
families and the parties. You remember Christmas last year? All the South American players met up, some of the Spurs lads as well. And they had like a big
Yeah,
house party when there was the ban about meeting family over the Christmas holidays. But they were getting away with it then. But yeah, I'm
yeah.
supposed to believe that they're now going to quarantine for 10 days. So I think my initial thoughts of selling Salah for some because of a quarantine, like they're out of a window, they're in a bin.
But I think Salah's situation is complicated because I think Liverpool have said he can play against Gabon because Gabon is amber as opposed to red. But like my
Remember,
thing,
Aubameyang caught fucking malaria in Gabon. So
like a,
I don't feel so great about him going to Gabon either, to be honest with you, with Salah.
but like my thinking on that is how does Salah like basically meet up with his international colleagues? Does he like fly straight to Gabon and just play a match? Because that means he isn't going to be part of like the squad party, maybe training in Cairo or what. It just doesn't really make any sense to me at the minute.
It is all a bit strange. I don't know if you've got anything else to say about the Liverpool game, but I'm pretty happy to go on to the Villa Newcastle game if you are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I feel like the Liverpool game. We were all quite scared, all us Salah captainers, with the 3 points, thinking about what Bruno could do. But it was the brave few that I know. So FPL Mahir, shout out to him. He actually captained Greenwood because he had a gut feeling, and that paid off pretty damn well for him.
Yeah, it definitely did. I'm up to 75 points now as well, which is good.
I'd love to know what I'm on before we talk about Aston Villa and Newcastle. I need to see. It's saying 84, but that might be 88. Okay,
Wow.
I only see a pre-sub rank, but Antonio is on 16 points. Imagine we captained him this week at Newcastle. No, was it say Leicester? I might captain him next week though. Now that I've seen what he's done now,
He's definitely an option, I think.
now
For
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
for the coming week, he's definitely an option. But we'll move on just to Villa here, and I'm just going to touch on a few things. So, obviously, Aston Villa, they won 2-0 against Newcastle. Ings scored an amazing bicycle kick. El Ghazi scored a pen, so that confirmed for us that while El Ghazi and Ings are on the pitch, we already knew this anyway, but while those two are on the pitch, El Ghazi's on pens. Now, what I'll say going forward is, I think El Ghazi's game time is going to get squeezed out a wee bit, and I think we could see Ings maybe taking more pens as the season goes on. Mings got 2 assists. Matt Target lost his spot at left back, and Ashley Young came in there. Callum Wilson had a bit of a tough afternoon, so he was absolutely flattened by Emi Martinez, who was initially booked, and it looked as if it was going to be a penalty, but it was called back for a VAR offside, which was like rubbing salt under the wounds, really. But no, in terms of Villa, as you have touched on about their non-penalty XG, and as we can see from their XG there, 1.48, when you take away the penalty, they're not really doing too much in terms of attack. And for me, I have been on a double kind of attack for Villa to play the fixtures. It hasn't really worked. I think I'll be going to Ben Rama.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think the Buendia shout is unfortunate because obviously he missed that last preseason game. And at that point, a lot of us removed him from our teams. We thought he was going to start. Then we got credible news that he's ready, he's going to go, he's probably going to start. And I reckon at that point, you tried to be too clever and went for him for those initial great free fixtures. And you thought, no, I'll spend 0.5 more than Ben Rama. And, this is going to be worth it. And I bet you're kicking yourself now. But it's unfortunate. It's a coin flip, though, right? Like that's what I mean. Like it's everyone's kind of fourth mid, and some of us got lucky with that choice. Some of us got fucked by it. Like it is tough.
My thinking on Ben Rama was, I do get that he was going to play more games with Lingard, obviously not in the picture because he was only on loan last year. But my thinking was, I don't know if he's completely nailed if they bring a player in. And at the time, I spoke to you previously where they were interested in saying Marius Pereira, and I kind of thought to myself, are they going to bring somebody in and he's maybe going to be a 60-minute man? But look, he's absolutely smashed it. But just to touch on Ings' stats that we have on the screen there. So in game week 2, he had 2 shots. One was on target, which was the pen. He scored 8 points in the game week. He had an expected goal involvement of 0.3, and his expected points were reflected. So his expected points were only 3.7, so quite low. And they were obviously dragged up by his bicycle kick was obviously a very low kind of XG shot because it would have been deemed to be quite difficult. But Ings is one that I'm happy to hold this week, but I think going forward to maybe game week 4, I'll probably be looking to maybe get DCL in.
Yeah, no, I was looking at DCL this week, as I was saying, but I've kind of had a bit of time to digest that information, and actually it's kind of Brighton away. I think Brighton will probably one of the best defenses in the league last year at home, and as much as I want DCL, he's already kind of price risen. He's already going to require 2 transfers to get to for me. So it just seems not worth it. I'm not going to sell Ings before Brentford away after a bicycle kick, as you say. I know Villa's stats haven't been great, but I think I'll hold on to Ings that one more week. And yeah, I'm not convinced. Like I can get DCL soon. And I saw some interview quotes. He does sound like he is on penalties. He's been up in the gaffer's ear for a while, it sounds like, asking him for these penalty duties. So he got it. He smashed the first one in. You kind of question why didn't Southgate bring him on for a penalty? But that's a different debate for a different day.
I think that was a very important quote that you're saying there. So Colin Hayes, he obviously writes his FPL news on Twitter, and he reported that DCL has had a conversation with the new manager Benitez, and Benitez has give him pens. And like the assumption was that, say, when Sigurdsson wasn't playing, that Richarlison would be on pens. Now, if you're maybe going to add maybe 4 or 5 goals potentially in the season for pens, it's a huge string in his bow, and it just further adds to his appeal. We're looking at Everton and how they're setting up, and all the crosses seem to be coming into the box. They want everything to go through DCL as it stands, so add penalties to the mix, and I don't think he can be ignored. But no, I'm happy with Villa. Like if you want to move on to say Palace Brentford, then
Yeah, let's do it. Just to say, it sounds like both Antonio and Benrahma have been subbed off for anyone listening afterwards. To timestamp it, we are in the thick of the war and we're streaming here. So I'm hoping once the matches end, some more people join in. I just want to say hi to Lindsay, who's joined in since we gave everyone a shout out. So evening, Tinesh is here as well. He is fuming because when we did the rate my team in preseason, it was the one at the end where we were kind of rude, and then he said, I didn't tell you guys that he actually beat me last year. So I feel like now that he's here on the stream, I'll do him right and admit he defeated me. He is my bitter rival of 5 years, Hibbo, and
Yeah,
he is like my biggest competition in all my leagues. So me and him, like we roll together and we've kept each other in that kind of battle for 5 seasons now. But the match is finished. Thank you, Rubber Ducky. So now we can kind of stream going ahead and think about Game Week 3 and not worry about our live ranks anymore. But yeah, let's move on from Villa because, as you say, I think their days are numbered, and Game Week 3 is probably the last of that for me. And if you had Buendia, maybe I wouldn't question you moving sooner rather than later. Whereas Ings, I can keep him. So this next one, do you want to talk about Crystal Palace and Brentford?
yeah. So Crystal Palace and Brentford. So obviously the game finished 0-0. There was no goals. So Ivan Toney, he was a big bandwagon at the start of the season. He recorded a second consecutive blank. It was in a fairly boring 0-0 draw. But in saying that, he had a good close range headed opportunity. He took 5 shots against Palace. 4 of these were inside of the box. 2 of them were on target. He had 2 points. He had an expected goal involvement of 0.5, and his expected points were 4.8. Now, the manager, Thomas Frank, has come out and says, look, he's got 100% faith on Tony. He reckons he's going to score goals. He's working hard and he's a constant threat throughout the games. And saying that, like where I'm sitting on Tony at the minute, I feel as if I have other issues in my team. Like I says about Buendia, he's got Villa next. Villa haven't exactly been a defensive powerhouse. They were probably lucky enough they shut out who were they? Newcastle in the last match. You
It
know, it
was
could
it
have
was
been
a difficult game, yeah.
it could have been a pen on another day if VAR hadn't pulled it back for offside or whatever, you know. So no, where I'm sitting on Tony is I'm probably going to hold him for now and the fact that he's playing Villa next because I want 2 transfers for after the international break. I only want to be using 1 transfer in the international break. If he drops in value, he drops in value. I'm happy enough to take it in the chin. My team started well. I'm going to be accumulating value elsewhere on my side. So I'm not going to get too caught up in Tony, but I'm happy, I think, to give him the next match. How do you feel about Tony?
So I was going to sell him for Calvert-Lewin. I was really rash, but kind of agreeing with all your points about Villa. I've now come to the conclusion that it's not worth me using 2 free transfers. I can wait 1 more week for Calvert-Lewin. I'd rather have the 2 free transfers going into game week 4 after the international break. So Tony, as you say, like his numbers were pretty good. Actually, he was unfortunate. There was a bit of debate, I think. So with different statistical models. So on Hub, they have like a 0.24 xG for him from the 5 shots, and I think on Scout they have like a zero point 0.5. And the Scout one I think is based on Opta, and the Hub one is based on like fantasy goals and assists. So it's based on it's got a different multiplier that looks at fantasy points specifically.
Yeah.
Either way, people were questioning, whatever those XGs may be, like, is he getting only 0.1 or is he getting like, what is he getting? 0.1 or less than 0.1 XG per shot? Is that good? But I actually like the fact he's taking the volume of shots, I will say. So I think I'll give him the extra game or two. He has some good fixtures. He could become Calvert-Lewin eventually, but for now, I'm looking at Armstrong as well, which is a zero point 0.5 saving. That could come if needed, if I want to get to Sun in some way. But we've heard Sun could be crocked, so I'm sure we'll come to that in the Spurs match review. But
Yeah.
it feels like there's a lot of uncertainty this early in the week. But when you see the transfer trend soon, it doesn't look like the casuals care about uncertainty because God, the transfers are flying in. Like you thought I was angry last week, but you're gonna love what the casuals are doing this week. They're helping us with the Simicast trades.
Yeah, but you know that I talk about, say, like knee jerking and hold the knee. I always say this about holding the knee. And like in terms of us, we've both had fairly good starts. You've had an incredible start in terms of FPL. We're both sitting at the minute with 2 free transfers. And I think you have to have faith in the process that, look, what we're doing is essentially right here. You're not going to get every position right, but I want to kind of fine tune my team going forward. And what you said about shot volume, I totally agree with. A player hitting 5 shots in a match, I'm happy to see how he gets on in the next match. Against Villa at home.
I
He's going to
think
be
we both like the eye test a bit. The stats are important, obviously, but I like seeing someone confident. And I'd say that I feel like he's not quite adjusted from Championship to Premier League level, the pace of the game. But these are good fixtures coming up, and we chose him for a reason. And I think unless you're convinced you're wrong, so you've got someone like Barnes, he's hugging the touchline. You said sell him last week when others were saying keep him. On that same caliber now, I feel like with Tony, he's done what we wanted of him. He's just not converted. So
Yeah,
you can't just be selling. Like I was ready to go and sell him too, but I think 2 free transfers in game week 4 is more important than selling Tony. There's other
totally,
fires, as you say. So
totally agree.
should we look at Leeds and Everton?
Yeah,
I'm
100%.
just keen to kind of rattle through these because
Yeah,
last time we did 1 hour 45. I feel like this time we can do 90 minutes and we can get even more live Q&A in because we want to make sure the Compass show going forwards is a more interactive episode each week and everyone can talk about what they're feeling this early in the week before price changes hit so that
yeah.
you don't feel like you need to knee jerk, as you were saying, Hibbo, and kind of make those moves to save money. I almost moved last night because I thought White might drop. I saw Duffy was rising. I thought, could I save 0.5 here? I didn't do it in the end. And I remembered points, not money.
My,
And it's
my
hard to get out of that habit.
the best piece of advice that I could give anybody at the minute is at the minute I'm not actually looking at FPL statistics. I'm not looking at it because whenever I feel pressure of like price anxiety, it makes me make worse decisions.
I've
And
done bad decisions over the years. You're right.
and it makes me make worse decisions. And like what I want to do is with every transfer, I want to make the best decision that I can possibly make. So my advice to people at the minute is hold the knee, relax yourself a bit, and we'll see. But if you want to move on to the next slide, we'll talk around Everton and Leeds.
We will. I'm just asking the haulers to let us know their game week 2 scores now that the game week is over and the match is ended. I'm keen to hear how all the fellow net that whole community is getting on. It feels like the whole crew are having an incredible season. It's only 2 weeks in. I hope it doesn't kind of implode from here, but it's been fun so far.
The same for people that are watching this in VOD. So if you're watching it in VOD, drop your score in the comments and we'll give you a shout out on the next show as well. So,
For
no,
sure.
just to talk around Leeds Everton. So obviously it was Leeds 2, Everton 2. Leeds had an XG of 1.05, Everton had an XG of 1.86. Goals for Leeds, Klitsch and Rafinha. Goals for Everton, Calvert-Lewin with a pen and Damari Gray. Assists, Bamford and Cooper. And Curry got an assist, who got a great shout out in our specific section about moving goalposts in pre-season. So Calvert-Lewin, 8.1 million. He looks like he's added another string to his bow now in terms of the penalties. He won it himself, so there was a bit of doubt as Calvert-Lewin on penalties, or did he grab the ball? But we've had the sound bites this week, courtesy of Colin Hayes, who basically says, no, Calvert-Lewin's confirmed himself he has in penalties. Now, Michael Keane, he made an error which allowed Leeds back into the game, so Klitsch finished after being put through by Bamford. Damari Gray put Everton back in front, finishing from a difficult angle after a Doucouré pass, which was his second return of the season for Doucouré. Moments later, a ball whipped on from Gray, a Calvert-Lewin effort was saved at point-blank range, which I was talking in spaces with Robert Ducky on Saturday night. I kind of pointed that out. Like, he did have another good chance in the game. So the keeper kept the striker out. I was most impressed with Rafinha, if I'm being totally honest with you. I thought Rafinha kind of looked magic. He looked, in terms,
It's incredible.
at this stage of the season, like, I think so much faith has to be put in the eye test. And if a player looks as if he's got a bit of magic about him, I'm interested. And looking at Rafinha, he screamed an effort just past the left-hand side post, but he also scored a very good goal. So I think Rafinha's one that I'm very much interested in. We do have an issue in the fact that he's got Burnley next, great matchup. He's got
It
Liverpool
is.
away, but he's also got a call up to Brazil. He's definitely going to go to Brazil because obviously the draws they play for his country. We don't know how the red list thing's going to work out. So where I'm sitting at the minute in Rafinha's, I might wait until game week 5. I might get Ben Rama for Buendia, but just a touch on Calvert-Lewin's stats in the graphic on the screen. So he had 4 shots, all 4 were on target, 7 points in the game week, an XGA of 1.8, and expected points of 10.7. These are unbelievable stats from Calvert-Lewin. And when we're looking at his fixtures kind of going forward, he's got a lovely block of fixtures right through the game week 11. It could be a set and forget kind of option in your kind of striker range. And I think there's a lot of value in that kind of 7.5 to 8 million striker range at the minute when we look at what Antonio's doing, DCL's doing, what Bamford could potentially do, even like a Callum Wilson and Ings. There's a lot of value there. And we're going to touch on that down the line when we talk, say, about Lukaku. I think there's a lot of value on this mid kind of range, and we'll touch on that later on, I think, in the show.
No, so I just want to say on this, so I'm going to play Island this week against Burnley, as you say. he's going to be my pick over Simicast, who probably is bench for Robbo, and even if he's not, it's Chelsea. That's not a game I need him for. So I want Calvert-Lewin. He is hot in my eyes. I do like the look of Bamford. He got his assist. I have him in a couple of the daily fantasy tournaments, like the Monsters on Fan Team. But overall, Rafinha is the guy. For me, I think we all said preseason he was 6.5 million, right? That is underpriced for a player like him. People ask, oh, but Harrison's 6 million. He's just as good. I've been saying all preseason, all 11 episodes long, Rafinha is the guy. Remember, after 1 week when he blanked against United, people were asking us, should I bench him? Should I sell him? It's crazy, right?
We
It's
said
fucking nuts.
we should keep him.
If you have him in game week 1 against United, how are you going to sell as he gets closer to his good fixtures in game week 4? I would love to get him soon, but that was my other option. I was actually looking at Greenwood to Rafinha and Tony to DCL. But I don't know about Rafinha if he's going to play game week 4 and 5. So I can wait. Like, I'd rather just have 2 free transfers and information. So maybe I just use the one this week, as you keep saying. Like, it feels like when you see the transfer trends, you'll be as surprised as I am. Last week, there was a big clusterfuck. And remember, I was talking about the Golden Eagle Lord Pogba. Everyone was coming into him in a weird arrow. This week's diagram is very simple. When you see the trends of the top 10 most popular sales and purchases, it's clear what everyone else is doing, and most people look like they're using one transfer and saving 2. So we'll get there. We'll move on to the next team from here, though.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so here you go.
So this was obviously like a big match in terms of the matchup, and I kind of feel as if I've dodged a bullet because I went under the game week with no Man City coverage whatsoever. So Man City, they won 5-0. My graphics is 5-2 for some reason. They won 5-0 against Norwich with an XG of 2.36, and Norwich had an XG of 0.07. So Krul had no goal. Grealish had a very fortunate goal. Laporte, Sterling, and Mahrez. Jesus had 2 assists, and Diaz had an assist as well. So as I said, Grealish's effort, his goal was there was a lot of luck involved. Gundogan was fit to start, so like neither De Bruyne nor John Stones made the squad by fitness issues. Raheem Sterling and Mahrez scored after being introduced. So I know Mahrez was quite. There was a few backers in the fantasy community, and obviously this was a game week where I know some people captained them. They would have been looking, thinking there's potentially a big hole in this for Mahrez. On the day, he had 2 shots, 1 on target, 6 points, an XGA of 0.6, and expected points of 4.7. So in a sense, I feel as if I dodged a bullet by not having Mahrez. Norwich, they weren't great. They've got tough fixtures to come. I kind of think, mostly in terms of fantasy, I kind of feel, I don't know about you, how you feel about it, Nima, but I kind of feel as if I dodged a bullet a bit,
Yeah, no, I think so. Like, I was really worried. I was genuinely scared. I was considering Gundogan. In both my Sky fantasy teams, I have Gundogan, I have Grealish in one, I have Mahrez captain in one of my fan team entries. So like, I was covering City in every game but FPL. I genuinely thought the City captainers would be feasting this week, and maybe the Mahrez captainers did, but most of them were too scared to captain him. So I think we got away very lightly.
I think what it highlighted for me was the point in case where we spoke to Tom Stevenson in pre-season, and Tom was obviously very, very big on expected minutes. And he stated that in terms of Mahrez, he's an option that he wouldn't really consider because for 9 million, you don't know if he's going to start. Now, I was speaking to Robert Ducky on Spaces on Twitter on Saturday night, and a point that Robert Ducky was making that this was obviously a huge game for Man City that they could do damage in and score a lot of goals. And it's one more game kind of chalked off a list if you're going to kind of fade Man City assets. At the minute, I'm not really that keen on them if I don't know if they're going to play. Like, Gundogan could come in and out. Mahrez could come in and out. Jesus did a good job in the wing. So could that impact like Mahrez's game time? Potentially. Sterling's still there. Kane could possibly come in. I just think there's too many moving parts. And with Man City, I'm really most interested in if Kane moves to Man City, he's obviously just a lock captain. Like, that's how I feel.
Just important question, by the way. So we've got Marco Hosic here. He's asking, is Mahrez going to play against Arsenal? So 99% of the time in the last 5 years, if you asked me this question, I would have been like, yeah, he was benched. Like, he's going to start. It will be fine. Then I read Pep's quotes about Jesus playing on the wing
Yeah.
and how it changed their whole game. And then I remember that Sterling's there just waiting, looming in the background. Bernardo Silva, who was going to leave, he's starting games. You know, KDB, he could be back. So, like, you start to worry a bit. You're like, oh, shit. Like, Grealish, yes, he's been playing in the CM, the 8 role, but he can play winger, as he did for Villa most of the season. So, it genuinely worries me a bit. But I think if you have Morris at this point, he got you a goal off the bench last game. He showed what he can do. He's playing Arsenal that look depleted on that wing. You keep him. Tierney's out.
Tierney's
You
out.
keep him. Yeah, so whether Morris starts or not, I think you keep him against Arsenal. I think you just go for it. Because I know lots were going to sell him this week, right, Hibbo? And maybe downgrade or upgrade to Son. At this point, I think I would be keeping Morris against Arsenal. And I was there in the Emirates. I watched it live. And yeah, 100% keep Morris if you have him for this 1 week, I think. But long term, what you said and what Tom said, which is X minutes and probably not long term.
What I will say about Mahrez, if you own Mahrez, he's a good cash cow because he's a player that you're not going to mind selling. Like at the minute, I'm trying to kind of move some players about, and I'm looking at Greenwood. Say, I know we'll touch on United later, but I don't want to sell Greenwood at the minute. Whereas if I had Mahrez at the minute, I would maybe be consider selling him sooner rather than later because he's always going to be a problem. And if you can't trust him at say £9 million, maybe you have to get off.
Just a quick shout out to Dread FPL, man after my own heart. I think I said this last or 2 weeks ago. We need to get Baker to find a clip and make a TikTok of my moment where I was basically like preseason. I was like, look, Antonio gave an interview and he said, Benny's on fire. Benny is the king. And I was like, that's good enough for me. Do you remember that moment? So I think he's right. I see in Benrahma what we wanted from Mahrez. Mahrez at City, any player at City is Pep Roulette. Give me the Mahrez of Leicester. I feel like in Benrahma, if Lingard does not join on loan, that is what we have. We have Benrahma playing Cam. He is the Mahrez in terms of the price point of Leicester a few years ago. And this is a team that's playing in Europe. So, you know, for now, I would ride that Benny train until they have Europe because the rotation hasn't even begun.
Totally agree.
So let's go to the next game, yeah.
So the next game was Brighton against Watford. So Brighton won 2-0. Brighton had an XG of 1.31. Watford had an XG of 0.45. Goals from my man Shane Duffy and Maupay. Assists from Gross and Basuma. So like Shane's put his hand up early as a budget defender they own with a bullet header. He had 3 shots, 1 on target, 14 points, an XGA of 0.4, and expected points of 5.8. I think over the first 2 game weeks, he's had 7 attempts on goal.
I just want to say, by the way, before you talk about this match, tell the viewers there's this head-to-head league you're in with Duffy, right? And it's the Big Rollers League. It's not on FPL though. It's on a platform where money leagues are allowed and all that.
You have to say that legally, don't you? But no, it's true. I'm actually in 2 money leagues with Shane Duffy. I'm in a £50 head-to-head and I'm in a £100 head-to-head. So look, Shane, if you're listening, just keep putting the money into the pot. I'm more than welcome to take it off you. But no, I kind of think, and we're going to touch on down the line about say £4 million defenders. I don't think Shane's going to be a long-term option. But what I will say is, Dan Burns out at the minute. For all we know, Veltman's got long COVID. But there's obviously some issue with Veltman.
It's dragging on, right? They're saying like 11th of September. And Pete saying he heard that he was training and stuff. I still find it a bit strange, like that he's apparently, like, you know, Oba had COVID last Friday and he came on off the bench. I know Laka and the rest of them didn't make it. But with Veltman, it is starting to be a bit worrying. Like, and I don't know if when Duffy's playing in the form he is, do you displace him? So maybe if Veltman came, he would start a right wing back. Maybe he doesn't take that centre back role from Duffy. And maybe, you know, we got to wait and see because actually Duffy could be the standout pick, at least with the fixtures for now. Not long term, but for now.
Not long term, but what I will say
about Castagna, by the way, but we'll move on from that. I'm just reading comments in the background.
No problem. What I will say about Duffy is Burns obviously out. We're talking about Veltman. You're saying Veltman could play the right wing back. We know Lamptey obviously has injury problems. What I say about Burn coming back, is he going to displace Duffy if Duffy's in this form? What I think for like people jumping off Tsimikas at the minute, they're looking at say Livramento because Livramento has played the 2 games. They're thinking he's going to be nailed going forward, and they're thinking that maybe Duffy's time is eventually going to come to an end. But what I will say is, like, say your team at the minute, you don't have any fires as far as I'm concerned apart from Tsimikas.
So I was going to say, so what do I do apart from sell Tsimikas? And I've got 1 million in the bank, but I don't want to spend it on a defender that I'm going to bench.
Do you know what I would do if I was you? I would buy Duffy for value.
I was going to, but then the price rise happened, and now my heart's telling me Livramento, but he's one bad performance away from being displaced by Walker Peters, and Twitter won't tell you that. They'll tell you buy Livramento. They won't tell you that he's just as much of a risk as Duffy.
What I will say about Duffy is, like, say he's rose to 4.1, Tsimikas is now going to raise to 4.2, but your selling price
I hope he rises. I hope he rises.
If you move to Duffy, like, you're still locking in that gain of the 0.1. All right, it's tied up in Duffy, but Duffy's not going to be a long-term option.
But I'm in a wild card eventually, yeah.
You're going to wild card eventually, and if Duffy, like, I think we're going to touch on transfer trends. He might be maybe the second or third most popular transfer player on this week.
I told you, it's shocking when you see the trends. It's Tsimikas and Duffy are leading the way. Like,
if Duffy keeps playing, and he's on the side, we know Brighton are good for clean sheets. 7 shots, I think, in 2 games.
2 games.
He's carrying that goal threat as well. So
just remember, so people in the chat are saying they have Dunk for 1 million more, and Duffy has literally come in and taken Dunk's exact role. He's there doing what the Dunk owners were hoping they'd get from Dunk, and they must be absolutely livid.
There's a reason for that. Dunk can play the ball, and he's better at playing the ball out from the back and kind of transitioning through midfield than Duffy is. So they've got Duffy in, and it looks nearly as if Duffy has taken Dunk's place on set pieces. Because he's new. But what I will say about Duffy, like, he's obviously been the captain of Ireland. See, for the last 2 years, Duffy has been like our biggest goal threat because we obviously don't have any strikers or any good attacking players. He's always got that. He's always got that in his locker. So just he cannot touch off in Brighton. So Maupay went off with a shoulder injury. Graham Potter said it wasn't too bad. That kind of caps us off there. So we know that.
Just one thing I want to say, by the way. So Duffy, a couple of years back, before that loan he had and maybe some issues in his personal life, he was the player of the season at Brighton. He is a legend of their club, for all things considered. He's had a bad time recently, but it's not an unforeseen circumstance that he just keeps his place if he does well. Like, people thought that because he's 4 million, he can't be a good player because he had a bad year last year on loan, but he was their player of the season just 2 years ago. Like, I remember the season we all captained him in a double game week, including himself. He captained himself too.
And his personal life, I wouldn't want to get too deep on it, but he has had a bit of a difficult time. And it's great from like a personal point of view for me to see him come back to Brighton, because I thought he would have went back to Brighton. I thought Potter would have closed the door completely and he wouldn't have got a chance. But circumstances have kind of worked in his favour because he played a lot of minutes in pre-season and these injuries on around the team. Is he a worse player than Dan Burn? I don't think so. Do you know?
Is he worse than Veltman? No.
Do you know? And I kind of think if like Webster's doing all right, Dunk's doing all right, and Duffy are doing all right, could Potter maybe look at those as a 3 and say, I'm happy to keep going?
I think so. And I think Burn could rotate with Solly March in the other wing-back position. And Veltman could slot in at right wing-back. And when Lamptey comes, he'll take that spot back. There's no reason why Duffy couldn't stay forever. But we will move on to the more exciting game. We have some United fans here as well. So it's the Southampton United game. We're hearing shouts about Livramento already. I think the debate of this game week is, do you buy Livramento at 4 mil or do you buy Duffy at 4.1? Because if Duffy costs 4 mil, I'd probably be going him over Livramento. You're right.
Yeah, well, my thoughts are like I would definitely go Duffy, I think, and but I would get the price raise out of Tsimikas if it comes, and then I would.
Yeah, you got to wait and see. Yeah,
because I do think from a price perspective, I think that Duffy's going to be a bit of a cash cow going forward, and even if it's only for a couple of weeks, casuals are coming in. They're looking at a 4 million or 4.1 million defender. They're seeing
with 14 points in one game week.
They're going to see him right up there at the top of the scoring table, and they're going to say, I'm going to buy this guy. So I think there's a lot of appeal there in terms of price than Livramento. And it could lead to, like, say you got the raise off Tsimikas and then raises off Duffy. You know, you could make an extra 0.3 over time. I don't think it's unreasonable. But just to touch on United, so obviously one each. XG for Southampton 0.73, XG of United 1.53. So Fred had an OG, which I think earlier people thought it was maybe Che Adams with Armstrong assist, but it ended up a Fred OG with an Adams assist. My man Greenwood scored, Pogba assist. So Fernandes totaled just 1 point in the game week. He followed Salah's lead with a blank, but he racked up an XGA of 0.6. Mason Greenwood, he made it 2 goals in 2 game weeks, and Pogba has recorded his 5th assist of the season. Luke Shaw owners, I think we have to count ourselves lucky, but I don't know how did he get 2 bonus points?
I was considering, when we were struggling, who do you sell with these 2 free transfers? After Tony, Salah, Greenwood, and all the other names I looked at, Shaw was one of the contenders. I was like, I could sell Shaw. Shaw could become my 4 million. And that 1.5 freed up could be incredible. And then I realized they have pretty good fixtures. The guy got 2 bonus in a blank. He's not going anywhere till at least game week 7, game week 8 wildcard, when that swing turns negatively for United and positively for Chelsea. So right now I'm tripled up on United. I feel like they did wrong in starting Martial, so I will say that. Sancho wasn't quite ready, but starting Martial, that wasn't a good idea. I've been backing the guy, but it's tough times, as my friend Tinesh will tell you. I'm sure he'll give us his opinion in the chat as a United fan at some point, but he's been backing Martial for a long time too, but I think he's finally given up on the guy. What I will say is with Greenwood, his goal was a bit fortunate, Hibbo.
Yeah.
I'll take the points, but it was fortunate.
I'll take the points. And we're looking at his data on the screen. So we had 5 shots, 1 on target, 10 points, an XGA of 0.3, and expected points of 3.9. Now, I think the 10. Other... Exactly. I think the other main talking points are Armstrong was maybe unlucky not to get an assist. Livramento kept Kyle Walker-Peters out for a second game running. So he could be an option at 4. He's obviously, we see Hoover's kind of fallen off the radar. Tsimikas has fallen off the radar. Amartey's fallen off the radar. Livramento's now on the radar. And Brandon Williams has moved to Norwich. So there's probably more £4 million assets than I ever remember in FPL.
Yeah, I remember the good old years of, was Wan-Bissaka 4 million at some point?
He was.
Yeah, I did think so. And obviously, Dallas was 4.5, but what he achieved that season was incredible. People don't give him the credit that they should. I guess I want to leave a few final points. So I guess around game week 7, when that United fixture swing happens, for me, that feels like the time when Bruno could become the cash cow for Lukaku. I don't know how you feel. Like, would you be selling someone like Bruno if he's got bad fixtures, or would you just be keeping him throughout all of it?
I would sell him, and it's something I want to touch on down the line when we kind of specifically talk about Lukaku.
Yeah, we'll go to those questions, yeah.
I think we'll touch on it then, but I do, in terms of my team structure, I definitely don't think I would try and squeeze Lukaku in with, say, 2 premiums.
We'll talk also later when we get to it about, do we go for Lukaku now? But
yeah,
I like, it is an option, but no, not for me, but we'll come to that too. Let's look at Wolves Spurs. So this was a throwback, as I can see on the graphic on the screen for the podcast listeners. Dele Alli, he is here. Just remember, there was a time when Dele was priced as pretty much almost a premium. He's 6.5 this year.
So when we're talking about this fixture, so Spurs obviously won 1-0. Wolves had an XG of 1.66. Spurs had an XG of 1.44. Dele Alli scored the pen. He was fouled and he got up and he took the pen. So a lot of kind of owners of Son in pre-season, because Kane was out, they were thinking, Son's going to be on pen. So I suppose we don't really know, because was it a case that he took the pen because he was fouled? Was it a case that he maybe took the pen because Son was maybe struggling potentially with a bit of injury? So I'm going to touch on that now. So Kane replaced Son on the 71st minute, and Son appeared to be kind of strapping on his upper leg. Now, during the pre-match warm-up routine, he needed to have a bit of treatment. He kind of disappeared fairly rapidly, but then he came back and he started the match. He came off in the 71st minute. There's talk of possibly a bit of a muscle injury there, so that would be a concern, because I know Son owners were maybe looking at this coming game week at home to Watford as a potential captaincy option. That's maybe going to put a wee bit of seed of doubt in their mind. Now, in terms of Hoover, so he was a 4 million option in defence. He was replaced by Semedo at right wing back. Now, Wolves racked up 25 shots.
They haven't scored, and they're like in the top 5 Premier League clubs for shots this season, and it's incredible they haven't got a goal yet.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So they failed to score for a second consecutive game week under Bruno Laga. So they're doing well in terms of XG, but they're maybe not converting at the goals at the minute. It could come. I know Adama Traore is doing well in terms of his shot volumes, but there are so many good options in and around that kind of 6 million. It's hard for me to try and sell you Adama Traore, if I'm being honest.
I found him exciting. The potential price drop to 5.9 was great. Then I heard the links about Traore coming to Spurs, and I thought, you know what? Let's just relax and wait and see what happens. Traore, just remember, earlier last season, our friend FPL Pig, the famous singing FPL manager, he hit 10k followers recently from his amazing game week songs. Dutch legend, as I call him. He made a thread about Traore, and some of the kind of bullet points about why to buy him were built like a brick shit house. Yeah. This, like, I'm telling you, man. The funny thing is, when he wrote that thread, Traore had a couple of good game weeks. Don't get me wrong, but prior to that, the guy had like one attacking return in like 40 game weeks straight. It was bad times for Adama Traore. The fixtures look good. I think I'd rather kind of be potentially looking at Jimenez as an alternate option to those going for a Bamford or a DCL in game week 4. I think Jimenez could be an exciting option. I wouldn't be looking at Traore. He might also leave the club to Spurs, as we're saying. So Dele Alli 6.5, just to touch on that. I think he only took the penalty because he won it.
Possible.
And I'm starting to worry that Kane will stay. So with that in mind, do we really care whether Dele or Son have penalties? Is it just Kane has the penalties because he's staying? That's the question.
Not when we have these options on and around kind of Benrahma price, Rafinha price in the midfield, but I don't know. Like for me, like just looking at his stats in the game week, he had one shot, it was on target, and this was obviously the pen. He had 9 points. His XGA was 0.8, which
That's the
again
lowest we've seen so far. Of like,
yeah,
no, sorry, that's the
like
highest. Sorry, no, that's one of the highest. But I still feel like, is he going to play like this kind of role when the rest of the squad gets started, like say Kane?
I don't know because they've got Lucas here. If Kane stays, Son's going to be in the mix as well. I know he's been playing kind of Son and Dele is kind of like nearly like twin strikers nearly, and I don't really know if that's going to continue if Kane stays. So I think Spurs are a wait and see. Despite their good fixtures coming, I'm kind of happy to stick to my plan and just buy Benrahma this week, I think.
I think so. Just for the new viewers, so it looks like we're up to like 28 viewers. Highest it's been since the match ended. So I just want to say, like, if you just tuned in, like, definitely hit like, hit subscribe if you're new, and check us out on the Football Content Awards. We are super proud and extremely privileged and humbled to be amongst the 9 other YouTube shows that have been going for many years, and is incredible to just be amongst them as our peers. But I think this game, you've said all we can about it. Really,
Yeah.
the big one is the one I went to live. So I regret spending the kind of money I did to be at the Emirates to watch this game, but I'll let you talk first and I'll tell you what I saw fucking live, and it was disgraceful.
Yeah, well, I actually kind of want you to tackle kind of definitively, but I'll just do the brief kind of talk around here first of all. So, like when we're talking about this match, Chelsea won 2-0, goals from Lukaku and James. James got an assist and so did Mason Mount. I backed Reece James up in pre-season when we did our defender piece as my kind of dark horse pick for the season. Now, the caveat was obviously game time, fixtures, etc. But I think he could be good if he gets a run of games. So Lukaku took just 15 minutes to open his account. Reece James provided the cross from the finish at point blank range. And I think we're maybe going to see a bit of investment in this kind of Chelsea striker now at the minute. But when we look at his fixtures in the near term, Liverpool away, Villa at home, Spurs away, Man City at home over the next 4 game weeks, it's a tricky kind of run. So people that are maybe going to wreck the balance of their team, I'm happy to take those guys on the short term, I think. James added a good goal as well, firing past Leno after finding space, and he was set up by Mason Mount. Other kind of fantasy interest was Ben White was unavailable. They're saying he's unwell because I think it's taboo to say people have COVID for some reason. But
Yeah, it's weird, right? Like it happened with Ober and Lacquer and the rest of them in game week 1. Like they're ill. COVID just doesn't exist anymore somehow.
So just to touch on the kind of XG, so Arsenal had an XG of 0.34, Chelsea had an XG of 2.90, which is fairly high. Lukaku had 8 shots, 2 on target, 9 points in the FPL, expected goal involvement of 1.8, and expected points at 10.2. So here's the thing, I'm going to need to get Lukaku at some point, but I'm going to fade him for the near term. You can now take it forward with your Arsenal TV style kind of.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I saw. I will be honest, when I saw Lukaku, it was incredible. Like what he did to Pablo Mari, it was insane. So when you look at both goals, I love Tierney, and I will say both goals were on him and Saka and Xhaka, all of them. The entire left side of the pitch was so narrow. When I saw Reece James, the guy had so much fucking space. Like I was watching live, and the TV angles, they don't show you all like 22 players at once. You kind of see what's in play, right? I could see all 22 players, and I tell you now, it was insane. A, Reece James has so much fucking space. B, Lukaku just looked like he was playing with school children. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like honestly, like Pablo Mari wasn't great. Don't get me wrong, but no, like they were basically doubling up on him. The reason we were so narrow was that Tierney didn't trust Murray, so the entire left position was just fucked, and Reece James violated it. Lukaku, his numbers speak for themselves, but look, we can at least afford to watch him against Liverpool, right? With Van Dijk back. I don't feel like him getting 6 points against Arsenal, who are at their worst in a quarter of a century, suddenly warrants ripping up our teams to get Lukaku yet. So I agree with you. I want him. I'll captain him. I'll own him. We can at least afford this one game against Liverpool. If he destroys them, maybe we move quicker than game week 7 when the fixture spring for Chelsea happens. But for now, I can wait. And if I wildcard around game week 8, so I think there's an international break between game week 7 and 8, United's fixtures turn horrendous, Chelsea's turn great. I've got triple United right now. Maybe my Shaw, Greenwood, Bruno becomes a Lukaku, Mount, Reece James. Or Reece James, Rudiger, and Lukaku. I don't know, but that triple up Chelsea is very much there, and I genuinely believe this Chelsea team, now with Lukaku there as the spearhead, they could challenge for the title altogether. So we've always been talking about kind of Liverpool and Man City. There is no reason why the champions of Europe couldn't win the Premier League this year. What do you think about that?
Well, what I think is, I know like a lot of Lukaku got a bit of a bad touch from like United fans because they would have said that his second touch is a tackle because his first touch was that bad. But I think Chelsea are going to very much play to Lukaku's strengths. I don't think he's going to need to necessarily be that involved in the build-up unless he's holding up the ball. And I think they're going to do a similar thing to DCL, what Everton are doing, and that it's going to be get it out wide to the wings and cross the ball to Lukaku. And if that's the case and that's his own pains, my problem with Chelsea at the minute is if you take Lukaku out of the picture, I wouldn't really buy Havertz or I wouldn't really buy Werner or any of these guys. But whenever I look at Lukaku, he's a player who I would buy and who I would captain. So he very much changed the dynamic for Chelsea for me. So I think you could also look, as you're saying, about Reece James, and we bagged him up in pre-season. We said he could be the dark horse pick.
There's no we, it was you. And I'm going to make sure that clip goes out because there'll be a lot of content creators on Twitter this week talking about Reece James as a dark horse after an 18-point haul.
Well,
you called it about a month ago. I
saw a thread today, I think, where like somebody was bagging Reece James up after 18 points. And, all respect to the guy for putting it out, but I thought it's an easy thread to write after he scored 18 points. It's a harder thing to call it in kind of pre-season. And when you were looking at his data last year, but the problem with Reece James is his minutes are still going to be an issue. So you're going to need to have a back five, which is fairly consistent in its minutes that that you've got.
It can't be 3-4 millions, that's for sure.
No, definitely not.
We have a wildcard active from Shakala Meka Leka, but we'll come back to that in the live Q&A. I just want to put that out there. Like wildcard active.
So happy to move on then if you're
okay. Well, it's transfer. Well, we don't have any slides for the West Ham Leicester game. It was live when we went on air. So all I will add is that red card. It was a very clumsy challenge from Perez. A definite red, no doubts about that. Unfortunate, but shocking. Like it was just, that was too clumsy for my liking. You can't get away with that in the Premier League. I guess Ben Rama, Antonio, I am very happy. for anyone who's watching live, I will say, so my final points tally now that I've checked, 88 points.
Wow.
Wow, I don't know what to say. I am on a 13.1k rank 2 weeks in,
What?
and I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do with my season from here. But 2 free transfers, I don't even want to use them, and 13.1k. What do we do from here, Hibbo?
The show's called Net That Hole. I think you've netted that hole.
I thank you all. I thank the viewers. I thank Mariner Ardar, who's awake at 6, 7 a.m. in Singapore, whatever time it is, morning, evening. We're in a different time zone. It's Monday night, it's Tuesday morning for Chris, but the machine, he never sleeps.
I'll say one thing. There's a bit of controversy at the minute that you and Marner have the exact same team.
I heard we have 14 of the 15 same players, and our only different player is I have Foster for his steal, the 4 million goalkeeper and goal. The crypto rank, they were laughing at us. Honestly, like we were in a NFT group, obviously, as you know. We have the Bruno NFT. We're in a mini league with Lee Croft, the founder of the whole establishment. I'm enjoying the NFT space and the crypto space, but we were called out because they saw our 11 and it's the same 11. We both have 2 free transfers. I think they split us up here, boys. So obviously, Marin and I used to do the Compass show last season. We took a -8 on air live on a Monday night together once. I feel like they split us up. And even though they split us up, we ended up with 14 of the same 15 players with no prior consultation.
What I will say about Jesus in your defence, the template was very, very strong. And if you're looking at how you've started, the template was right. Do you know? So I know there was a bit of discussion in the community at the minute about so many teams being quite similar. I think it was something that Nick Triggerlips touched on himself. But the teams are similar because groupthink and hive mind narrows down the range of options to the best options. And in previous years, we've seen the template that hasn't popped off. This year, the template has absolutely hauled ass from early doors. You're 13k, great position to attack the game.
I don't know what to do with myself. So my best ever rank was 1k. It was a rare moment. My annual target is top 100k. I normally spend the first 10 game weeks trying to get back from a 2-3 million rank to 100k. Last year, I spent 17 game weeks, Hibbo, between 100k and 200k. So to be at 13k 2 weeks in, I do not know what the fucking future holds, but I'm going to go for the triple digit finish. I'm just going to do it.
I'm sitting on, I think, live FPL, 189k. And like last season, my first 6 game weeks were my worst 6 game weeks of the season. So I'm thinking to myself, if I can start well, once I start, which I feel like I haven't started as well as you.
You have. No, but you have. People don't realize 100 or 200, anything in this like 6 digits in the first 5 weeks is great.
Once I start reading the game and making my transfers going forward, I feel that it can do something in the season. So hopefully the people that are watching Net That Hall, we hit the ranks all round. The hosts hit the ranks and all the people watching hit the ranks, and I think that's important.
100%. But before we move on to my transfer trends, because Tom Stevenson is here, I'm going to show it one more time. Trigger Lips is right, by the way. I've never seen Trigger's cat become Trigger Lips, but I'll take it. Trigger Lips, I've been outed recently as Scarface. We'll talk about that later. I know you talked about Rockstar 70k followers hounding you. You were right. I felt like I was leveling the playing field because a lot of people for many years have had access to the team news and kept it to themselves. As Scarface, I only shared it because it felt unfair that someone so disconnected from the football industry like myself had the news. So that means so many people must know. I'm glad they changed the rules. I'm glad you don't need to wake up at some insane hour to make early transfers based on leaks. Because you know what? You, me, everyone was being screwed. And we'll talk offline about who those fuckers were who were screwing us, Nick, because they exist, and I'm not the bad guy in all of this. But that's between us. Don't unfollow me for telling you who I used to be, because it's a new thing. But anyway, the main point was, I'm just going to show you this little clip from Tom Stevenson. So, Tom, you're here tonight. I really want to see the Nima silence clip, we call it, the tumbleweed. Enjoy. Definitely our most popular member of the Net That Hall crew, and you can definitely be our 5th crewmate now going forwards. definitely be our fifth crewmate now going forwards.
Hello, darkness, my old
So, just while we're here as well, guys, so please do continue. So continue to hit that like, subscribe button, vote in the Football Content Awards, and don't block me for leaking news.
We have a couple of big accounts on here. So we've got Paul Marshman on, who's a poster in Nirvana. He's in the Hall of Fame. Absolute legend. We've got FPL Matthew, I think it is. And we've got Tom Stephen and Triggered Up. So we must be doing something right. Hello? Nima, you've got two screens or something. I don't know what the fuck you're doing here.
I think the old me's been kicked out. I'm back. I'm frozen in time. I'm back though.
Right, that's it.
I don't know what happened, but it said you've lost internet connection. So we're back, guys. So my transfer trend starts now. I write for Fantasy Football Hub, as we know. I use Fantasy Football Fixed Data. I love everyone. I'm also in the Scout tournament this year, so I like them all. Now, anyone who wants to hate on me for being involved in all three while being a co-editor of allaboutfpl.com, DM me, bitch. Now, moving on. So let's talk about the top transfers this week. I don't know how much time we lost when I went missing, but there's some big moments going. Hibbo, I feel like I keep losing you.
I think I'm losing you. I think you keep dropping off a stream.
I don't know how my Wi-Fi has done this to me. 15 episodes in and my Wi-Fi decides to do this now. But I was saying Lukaku most transferred in 230k, Tsimikas 190k, Duffy 180k, Ings, Jota, Pogba, James, Calvert-Lewin. They're the top 8 most transferred in. Transfers out. White is actually the most transferred out, 143k. Tony, second most transferred out, 140k. Stones, Dinia, Sean, Chilwell, Target, Kane. You got to laugh at the 80k Kane transfers out before he may start the next game for Spurs, right?
Well, whoever owned Kane for those first 2 games, are we even competing against those boys?
No, we are not. So, as you may see, the top 10 all position transfer combos this week is insane. It's so good. Last week was a clusterfuck. This week, it's defenders. What's going on? I do not see a non-defender on the screen here, but tell the podcast listeners. All I see is Ben White, Target, and Veltman being sold for either Duffy or Livramento. 4 millions, booyakasha.
Do you know what this is? This is basically like a biological diagram of like people having COVID and everybody's just moving to Duffy.
It looks like it, right? It's fucked. I'll be honest. So, guys, the top 10 transfer combos of all positions are White to Duffy, Veltman to Duffy, White to Livramento, Target to Duffy, Target to Regulion, Target to Regulion, White to Dyer, Tony to Lukaku. Wow, there's a forward transfer in here. Dinia to Duffy, Morris to Son, and Ings to Lukaku. Wow, that's nuts. It looks nothing like last week's transfer trends.
No, they're starting to take a bit of shape, aren't they? Like, you know, Duffy's obviously, this is what I'm saying to you about Duffy potentially as a cash cow for like a Tsimikas replacement for you. I get what you mean about Livramento, and you're saying, I'll buy Livramento, and you're going to think he's going to be nailed. But I think if you've got the wild card in your back pocket, you could make the move to Duffy, make the gains, maybe make the points, and sell Duffy in your wild card.
What if I'm benching him anyway? Just go for Duffy because the casuals will buy him for the price rise, right? Because Livramento ain't delivered no points. He's just started games.
Brighton's got good fixtures that I think that you could double in their defence anyway. And we've been playing a bit of daily fantasy sports like Fan Team, and we're into this kind of double defence kind of approach. So I do think I prefer Duffy instead of Livramento, if I'm honest. I think Duffy's got the goal threat.
No, it seems fair to me. What I will say though is that's nuts. I hate defender transfers. They are like 7 or 8 of the most popular 10 combo of moves this week. And I'm considering using a transfer on a defender who's 4 mil to a defender who's 4 mil. It's been an incredible start for the template, as you say. What I'd then like to look at is forwards going backwards. So top 10 forward transfer combos. It looks like there has been a lot of exits from Tony. Like everyone is exiting Tony, but we said earlier in the show, we'll probably give him at least one more game week, right? There's a lot of exits. Seems strange, right?
Who's this, Tony?
Yeah, Tony. He like him and Ings are the 2 exits. On the diagram that I see for the podcast listeners, the only 2 exits in the diagram are Tony and Ings.
I can see why people are jumping off Tony. He's flattered
I
you
can
to see.
see.
And if you were allowed such a thing as like 3 transfers, I would definitely, I'm in a position now where I have to sell Buendia. If I wasn't your position with say Buenrama, I think I would definitely be getting rid of Tony.
He's the next guy. So we've got Tony to Lukaku is the number 1 most popular forward transfer. These people must be taking a hit elsewhere, right?
They must be.
You can't be jumping from 6.5 to 11.5.
They must be selling Mahrez because I saw some people talking during the last few days where they were suggesting maybe Mahrez down to a 5.5 to give themselves maybe 3.5 million. But you would need more money than that, But they must be selling some kind of big hitter to make their way to there. Maybe even Son. I don't know.
They have to be. The second most popular combo is Ings to Lukaku. So Lukaku's coming in. Then we have Tony to Calvert-Lewin, Tony to Dennis, Tony to Armstrong, Tony to Ings, Tony to Obafemi. I didn't even know you could buy him still. Wilson, to Lukaku, Vardy to Lukaku, Tony to Antonio. Shocking moves all around. Lukaku and Calvert-Lewin, great options. We said earlier, Lukaku, I can wait and see. At least a Liverpool match. We'll move on to midfielders. This diagram is a bit more interesting. Mahrez to Son is the number 1 most popular combo. Mahrez to Greenwood is number 2. Mane to Son, number 3. Salah to Jota. I'm just going to take a moment there. Silence speaks a million words. There's something wrong with you people. Buendia to Rafinha. Barnes to Greenwood. Salah to Son. Buendia to Greenwood. Mahrez to Jota. Mahrez to Rafinha. So, what do you think about these lot? Because the midfielders, it's a bit more interesting than the forwards. Would you be selling Mahrez before a game against Arsenal when Tierney's out on that wing?
I think. Well, I couldn't blame people selling Mahrez at the minute because obviously there's this doubt about his minutes, and there's always going to be a doubt about Mahrez's minutes going forward. We look at the game against Norwich, and you would be thinking, "Oh, Mahrez against Norwich, that's his best game maybe of the season at home." He didn't even play, so I think that says all you need to know. These people that are moving, say Salah Jota or Salah Son, these are the people that have created this narrative that Salah's maybe going to miss 3 matches, even though there's zero confirmation that he's going to miss anything. So I reminded some people on Saturday in Twitter Spaces that Salah's going to play Chelsea next. He could score against Chelsea. Don't write him off. He's got Leeds in after that. This quarantine thing might not even happen. So I'm assuming these people...
It's not even going to happen.
It might not happen. And these people are jumping off Salah and making these kind of sideways moves. And who are they going to captain in Game Week 5 and Game Week 6?
I hope they tell us, comment if you are doing it. I'll move on to the defenders because that looks like where most of the popular combos of transfers are happening. I was looking to sell Ben White to bank 0.5. I missed that. Duffy Rose, White may drop. But I wanted White for Game Week 4 onwards. So am I really now going to sell him when he misses Game Week 3 against City when I wouldn't have played him anyway? And then he has 2 weeks to recover against Norwich and then a great run of fixtures? Probably not. I just keep him. Maybe Tsimikas is the guy who goes out, as you're saying. So White is the number 1 most transferred out for Duffy. Voltman for Duffy. White for Livramento. Target Duffy, target Regulion. White for Dyer. Okay, that's interesting. Digne for Duffy. White for Regulion. Target for Dyer. Manquillo for Duffy. RIP all the Manquillo owners. RIP. So how do you feel about these? Because the diagram looks like White to Duffy is like, that is the move. That's what everyone's doing. Seems a bit strange to me.
I couldn't knock him really because I've seen Arsenal defensively in the last couple of matches and they haven't been great. He's
That's
got
not a
COVID.
statement.
He's got COVID. He's not going to play against Man City. Granted, you weren't going to play him against Man City, but I can see why people are making the move. I think Duffy's
You must
going
have
to
no other fires though, right? Like, if you're selling White, your other 14 must be pretty good.
But then some people in this game are taking like -8 point, -12 point odds.
People were wildcarding Game Week 2. We'll come back to our friend who's wildcarding Game Week 3 later.
No, I think this move isn't the worst. I think he's got a lot of appeal, if I'm being honest. In the short term, anyway. I don't think in the long term, but in the short term.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm in an odd situation where I can't believe I'm even considering the fact that I have 2 free transfers in Game Week 3. That's obscene. B, the fact that I'm considering selling a 4 mil defender for a 4 mil defender. That's even more nuts.
That's more crazy than you being 13k at the moment.
That is fucking nuts, as you say. My best ever rank, 1k, but triple digits were coming, guys. Net that haul. All the haulers who are watching today, we may be a bit more raw than the other shows. But remember, we're in the finalists for that Football Content Awards. There was only like 5 people live viewing when I said it last time. There's 33 of you now. In the YouTube and podcast description, check it out. If you like the show, give us a vote. Help us out. Because I want to be at that awards ceremony in October. And I want to be Net That Hall. We're there because we've been calling from early. I'm not even going to give this attention, Hibbo. So you heard how I felt last week about goalkeeper transfers, right? And there's still goalkeeper transfers happening. I will not give it too much light a day, but here are the top 10 goalkeeper transfers of Game Week 2. Leno to Schmeichel to save nothing. Martinez to Sanchez to save 1 mil. Okay, at least you save some money. Foster to Raya. You spent another 0.5. What the fuck is wrong with you? Martinez to Schmeichel. Martinez to Lloris. Martinez to Raya. Backman to Raya. You're fucking sick in the head. Foster to Schmeichel. Jesus fucking Christ. 1 million upgrading goalkeeper 2 weeks in. I really hope I'm not behind you motherfuckers at the end of the season. I don't even know what to say. Foster to Schmeichel, sorry. Backman to Sanchez. Foster to Lloris. Please, goalkeeper transfers. Don't ever do this to me again. Every week I'm just going to skip past because Hibbo, it makes me sick. There is something wrong with these people.
Dad's not happy. He's in the fucking chat. He's going mentally.
I can imagine. At least the channel is based in the UK now, not Singapore, so they can't just kind of ban us for casual swearing.
Or arrest Chris.
Well, let's hope they don't arrest Chris. I'm going to play a little advert before we move on to the Twitter submitted questions. So, obviously, all about FPL.com. I am a co-editor. Surya comes every other week on Net That Hall. And you should vote for them in the best editorial category for the Football Content Awards, as well as voting for Net That Hall for video. But in the meantime, what are you waiting for?
Are you craving more FPL content? Then look no further than allaboutfpl.com. Head over there for weekly articles from some of the top content creators on the planet. So what are you waiting for? Head over to allaboutfpl.com, the website for all your FPL needs.
What are you waiting for? So, Hibbo, we're on to the question of the game week. The burning question, Romelu Lukaku. Do we get him now? Or do we wait till game week 7? And as Triggerlip says, should you own a premium if you won't captain them?
I think it's a good point by Nick. So, like in terms of Lukaku, I think I'm going to wait. We spoke earlier about it. So, like you're talking about his fixtures in the immediate future. He's got Liverpool away, Aston Villa at home, Spurs away, Man City at home. Fairly difficult. I think in pre-season we talked at length about kind of team structure. In my opinion, at the minute, I say like shoehorning Lukaku on us, maybe like a nearly third premium. I think it's going to damage the balance of your squad, and it's maybe going to make your squad kind of suboptimal. Like I've seen people talking about doing, say, Morris, they have 5.5 midfielder, and say like Ings, de Lukaku. Now, my problem with say the 5.5 million, the midfielders of 5.5 million is, I think they're all kind of unknowns at the minute. I don't really know how good any of them are. I think they're all kind of punts. If I think about the next four, would I captain Lukaku in the next four? The only fixture I think I would pick out is game week 4 against Aston Villa at home. And that week, the chances are I'm going to captain Bruno Fernandes against Newcastle. So at best, you're maybe only going to captain him at 25% of the next game weeks. I think really, I don't really want to go bigger than 2 premiums when my team value is quite low. I think last season we saw that there were quite a few kind of big hitters in kind of midfield and attack. But if we look at the season before, like we saw, say, Trent and Van Dijk would have been in the team of the season. And I think we're maybe looking at that now, where like Trent at 7.5 is so much value. And I think if you're looking to have a third premium, you need to maybe go without Trent as like a cash cow and selling him. So for me, I think I'm going to wait for the fixture swing. I think I'm going to wait until game week 7, where say Bruno's fixtures turn bad. And
what if he scores a hat-trick against Liverpool? Would that accelerate your thoughts?
My thoughts might accelerate a bit.
Yeah, but I don't think he'll do that, just to be honest. Yeah.
It could do it. It could do it, but I kind of think at the minute, I have a plan. I want to stick to my plan. And my plan is that I want to have 2 premiums. I think there's a lot of value in, say, like kind of Rafinha, Benrahma and midfield. But then whenever I look at, say, the strikers around 7.5, look at Antonio. Look at what Antonio's done. Look at what Ings is doing. Look at what DCL can do. Look at what Bamford can do. And I think if you have to squeeze Lukaku onto a striker spot and downgrade, say, like Mahrez to a 5.5, you're going to miss that kind of Rafinha value, Benrahma value potentially. You're going to miss one of the 2 of them, and you're going to miss one of the good value kind of 7.5 to 8 million strikers at least. Now, I think FPL Matthew, we were talking on Twitter Spaces on Saturday evening. Now, he made a great point, I thought, in terms of team structure, about keeping a premium midfielder and a premium striker, because we've obviously got, say, Bruno, who could be Salah, and Salah, who could be Bruno, but we've also got Lukaku, who could be Kane. So if you kind of retain like a one bag of midfield, one bag up front, you could possibly alternate between them in terms of transfers.
No, I agree. There's a lot of people in the live chat. They're giving us all this spiel. I agree. I will wait for Lukaku. I think that is the plan. I will wait. But if he goes crazy against a team as good as Liverpool, it might be hard for me to prevent that knee-jerk, as we call it.
It might be hard, but what I'm going to say is there's some issues with a template at the minute. So, like when we're looking, Simicus has obviously lost his spot. Veltman has this ongoing COVID. Ben White has the ongoing COVID. Ivan Toney has turned out to be a wee bit Ivan Pony and Trap. So there's kind of fires in the template at the minute.
And Bonds playing, like, hugging the wing.
I would keep Barnes for Norwich, but I think there's enough issues there that if somebody's making that Lukaku move now, I think they're maybe skewing the balance of their squad and they're maybe not addressing the issues.
Will they captain him? I guess is the first question, right? So for me, the only week you could captain Lukaku, it's an incredible fixture for Bruno. So it's like, are you really going to do that? You could probably wait out for Lukaku. He may cost 11.8 million by then. He may even cost 12 million by then. But are you willing to wait through the price rise?
You're going to make money in your other positions. I think people kind of look at the price of one player getting away from them and they get this anxiety and they start freaking out and they start selling players. Hold the knee, chill yourself out a bit and wait. And in the meantime, your Benrahma could raise, Ings could raise. you're going to get these raises, but I think stick to a plan. Now, in terms of this FPL banger, he's saying DCL or Lukaku. Or Dominic's got the fixtures, but Lukaku's got the supply from the UCL winning team. I'm going to say DCL in the kind of short to mid term for me. I know Grady had a question in the chat where he's saying about he thought Richarlison was still in penalties. It's been definitely confirmed by DCL that he's in penalties.
He's 100% on penalties.
He's 100% in penalties, and it just adds so much to his appeal. And as we've been speaking about, there's that much value on that 7.5 to 8 million striker. You're looking at Lukaku at say 11.5. Like think about say Bamford or DCL and Rafinha is 14.5 million. Lukaku's 11.5 million on his own. So you could be potentially squeezing the value out of your team. If you're not going to captain them, I don't think it's a wisest move in the short term.
No, and I think there's a few question marks over Lukaku on penalties. Calvert-Lewin is on the penalties. So I would be taking Calvert-Lewin all night long for now. We have an FPL Pepsi. Interesting question. Thoughts on Spurs defense, Hibbo? Tanganga is the standout pick, it looks like. We don't know if he'll keep his spot. Is Regulion worth the extra 0.5 million? And then his final question is, which forwards are worth transferring in? Ings or Wilson after Gameweek 3? Most Wilson holders I know, they're desperately holding on for at least another game or two before selling. So I wouldn't be transferring Wilson in. That's for sure. Same with Ings. I feel like both of them are a transfer waiting to happen out. What do you feel? Both on the Ings and Wilson debate, and also who would you get from Spurs? Because I know they're in for a centre-back still. They're in for a full-back on the side. Tanganga plays. Neither position seems nailed.
I wouldn't sign a Spurs defender, if I'm honest.
Well, neither would I, but if they wanted to, who would you pick, I guess? Would it be Tanganga or Dyer? I don't think so. I think it would be Regulion.
I think it would be Regulion. I don't think we really know if Tanganga's nailed. He may play. Doherty's going to come on and play maybe some games. He may play cup games, but I don't know. I think the most nailed out of them is probably Eric Dyer if you wanted to go for a 4.5 million option, but he's got like zero fucking threat. Like so, I'm just going to say a Spurs defender wouldn't be for me because I want to make sure I'm making a definitive point. Now, which forward are we transferring in for Ings and Wilson after game week 3? I'm obviously very hot on DCL, so I think next week for game week 4, I'll go Ings to DCL.
I feel like game week 4, that is my transfer. I was looking at Tony to DCL this week, but it would require a second transfer to fund it. So not for me. Regulion is my only pick. Yeah, I'm going to move on from here. So we have FPL Hazy's Veltman hold or sell. They're worried he'll drop in price.
I think
we've heard he's out, right? He's out. Like he won't be back till post international break.
I think it depends on how weak overall your defence is, or how weak overall Hazy's defence is. I think if he has other issues like say Simicas and Veltman, if he doesn't have 3 playing defenders, I think he's going to have to take some action. Personally, I have Veltman. I'm not worried about price drops. I've got Ayling can play as my 3rd defender this week, and the hope that Veltman will be back. So I think if you're in that position where you've got 3 playing defenders, I'd be happy enough to kind of muddle through, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I hate goalkeeper transfers. I can't believe I'm looking at Simicas out as my one free move this week. We'll move on to Jascara on 32. Tony and Barnes. Are they a wait and watch or are they an offload?
I don't think you can sell Barnes before Norwich.
Not if you kept him till now, right?
Tony, I think if I was in your position, so like you're talking about kind of making this vanity move in defence, your squad looks more or less perfect on paper. You've got
Tony's my only weak point, yeah. And Simicas is on my bench, so that transfer would be a bench player. I'd rather do like a Tony to DCL, right? Even if it's Brighton.
I think the reason you're not making that move is obviously because you want to have 2 transfers after the international break. Now, what I will say
about selling Greenwood, I will say that.
I think that other people that don't mind using the 2 transfers, they might look to offload Tony now, but personally, I'm going to give him Villa at home.
Why not? They've been terrible. They've been fucking terrible, right?
I think so. Like, I think I'm going to give him a chance. He had 5 shots. Like, the shot volume was there in game week 2, so I'm prepared to give him a go.
Yeah, I think so. What about FPL Robotos? So will Salah be out for game week 4 and 5? I guess the answer is no.
We can't answer this question.
We can't, but we think it's no.
We think it's no. I think they make an assumption that he's going to be out for these games. I think it would be the wrong way to go. I think there was quotes today to say that Liverpool were going to prevent him from travelling to the red list countries. This was quoted in the media today. So it seems as if they can't really stop him from going on international duty, but they might be able to stop him from having to incur some kind of isolation when he comes back. I don't think we've heard the end of this, but I don't think he's going to miss game week 4 and game week 5.
Yeah, watch the episodes on Thursday, Friday. We may know more by then. So this is at Papu Live 24/7. Your choice of goalkeeper moving forward. Tielemans, keep or transfer? I have him as Sky. Keep. For Sky, for FPL format, it's an easy transfer for me. Apart from Trent, which fullback makes sense? So who's your goalkeeper going forward? Should you sell Tielemans? And who's the best fullback outside of Trent?
Goalkeeper, I'm happy with Sanchez. Sounds boring.
I think so, yeah.
Tielemans, I would definitely transfer Tielemans.
Definitely selling FPL, yeah.
And apart from Trent, I think Shaw will come good.
I think so.
Do you know, I think you look at those first 2 game weeks and, you know, they were away to Southampton and they had Leeds in the first game and they're not bad attacking sides. And you're looking now, they've got Wolves next and Newcastle a game after that. Both those teams are fairly weak down the right-hand side in terms of Semedo's not a great defender and Newcastle have always been kind of notoriously weak on that kind of right-hand side last season. So I think Shaw could get something. And if people are now going to jump off Shaw to say Reece James when he has those kind of 3 tough fixtures in a block of 4, I think it could be a dud move for him.
I think so. So we've got at Ignatius Brian L1. Any 4.5 million defenders target? He says other than Livramento, but Livramento is 4 mil.
What's your thoughts on this? Because at the
So
moment,
for me, it's Ayling. Home against Burnley next game.
I have Ayling. I have
Yeah,
Ayling.
he's starting for me. White, he's being sold. He could be the 4.5 you want from Game Week 4 onwards. He will have recovered from COVID by then. If you own him, I find it a bit odd to sell him over Simicast if you have Simicast too.
My problem with White is I like.
He's boring. He's boring.
He's boring, and I don't
Fucking
really like.
Boring.
I don't like the own defenders that kind of offer me kind of zero threat in terms of XGA. So
he's short. He ain't getting no goal or assist, mate.
He's definitely not, you know. But no, Ayling, we saw he got the goal against United. He had the good data from last year, which kind of finally came through against Man U. So if I had to pick one, it would be Ayling.
Yeah, I think at 4.5, Ayling is my guy. 4 million, Livramento is my guy. Voice of Cigar, thoughts on Semedo and Saka Smith-Rowe. That is very different conversation there, but
Semedo, I'm just going to say I think he's useless.
Just a no, yeah. That's just a no. Saka Smith-Rowe, I'd pick Saka over Smith-Rowe. Player of the year, I'd be going for him. Davindra Raj. What do you think about Wood? 6.9 million. Leeds and Everton next.
I think it feels like a kind of convenient transfer. I kind of think he's maybe looking to jump off. I'm reading between the lines here. I'm thinking he's maybe looking to jump off Tony and he's got a bit of bank to do it. And he's looking at these Leeds and Everton. Could Wood do well? He could. At this point in time, I don't think when you've got the options in the game, we've already spoke about DCL, Ings, whose fixtures are going to turn, but you've talked on Bamford, Jimenez from game week 4. I think Wood doesn't really hit the mark compared to those boys, and I think it's a move he would maybe regret. He would make that move and sooner or later he'd be looking to jump off. So
those 2 games are good, but long term he's going to be looking to sell. You're right. I like your bit of Wood, but this might be a good time to mention next Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. guys, we have a guest, a very special guest. This guest, he only ever appears on The Wire. He doesn't do guest appearances. It is the big man himself, my boy Bakar, straight out of Pakistan. He's going to be here with me and Hibbo, and we are going to fucking grill Bakar. We are going to question everything. We're going to put his dance on the screen, and we're going to ask him what he was thinking at the time. We are going to fucking grill into Bakar. Anyway, my point was, this conversation of Simicast, Veltman, and White, what should I do? Harry, you're in trouble, mate. You're in trouble. Sell any of the three of them and buy a player that actually plays. That's the end of that one.
He might want to get these boys vaccinated because they're in bad shape.
Yeah, he's in trouble. We have @Anthony_FPL. And as I said, we will see Bakar next Tuesday. If you have questions for Bakar, and if you don't have questions for Bakar, start to think of questions for Bakar. Because I want to make him as uncomfortable as possible next episode. So, guys, please start planning, start preparing, think as many questions as you can. Because we need to find him a wife.
Jesus.
Anthony, but I blame Nehal on that. He said you're gonna have a lot of female viewers next week.
No.
Anthony_FPL, what's your thoughts on using a transfer on a 4 mil defender over a middle forward? In relation to that, Nick's question was, you shouldn't really be selling your cheap ass defender unless you think they're gonna drop in price. And John Chappelle, friend of the show, does not believe that they'll let someone like an Arsenal defender get to 4.3. So, what's our thinking?
My thinking is it depends how many fires you have to put out. So for me, I have other issues in my team that I want to address. I'm not going to move Simicast on. But like I'm looking at your team at the minute, it's sitting nearly perfect. You've got 2 transfers. You're either going to burn one or you're
going to burn one, yeah.
Or you're going to cash on Simicast. So I think it depends totally. It's team dependent. And I think rather than burn a transfer, I would move Simicast on. But I would almost always prefer a higher impact midfielder forward transfer.
I agree. We're hearing a lot of poor Bakar, you bad man Nima from Grady. Nah, Bakar's my boy. I've known Bakar since July 2020. We've survived COVID together. It's been a long year and a half. My boy Bakar, he sits close to my heart. As we say, Scarface. Bakar knew from day dot. So at JMC7T7T, I know Lukaku can score against anyone, but would you sit with an Ings to DCL swap from Game Week 4 until Game Week 7? So is DCL going to cover Lukaku? We've already discussed this. And if Kane moves to City before Game Week 4, would you wildcard early? I would not wildcard fucking early. Not at 13k.
I think wildcarding off the back of a Kane move would be like just a typical example of somebody shitting their pants. Just hold your knee, relax yourself. You've made a plan. If Kane moves, he moves. But just wait and see. Like, you know, I wouldn't be kind of looking at Kane's transfer and saying, oh, I know you have to wildcard. Like, I'm looking at my team now. I don't have to wildcard anytime soon. So if Kane moves, it's not going to kind of accelerate that for me. I would definitely do the DCL thing.
I think so. We've got a couple more questions before we go live to the audience. So we have at Shankly Boys, Alonso's chance of a regular start. He started the first 2. I don't think he lasts long term. I think Chilwell takes that spot, at least in the tougher fixtures. You could argue Alonso has the easier fixtures, so if you have a sub to cover him, why not? For me, buying Alonso now, you're playing FPL about 3-4 years late. But I don't know what you think here, but
I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole. I owned Alonso last year, and the whole theory was the same then. Get Alonso for the easy fixtures. Chilwell is going to play against the harder attacks, blah, blah, blah. He was a disaster for me, and I'll never go back.
We're hearing from Nehal, Alonso not only has competition from Chilwell, but fucking Pulisic too. Tuchel will play anyone at wingback, so get the fuck off that Alonso boat. And last week we saw in transfer trends, Chilwell to Alonso. That was a very common transfer. These people are deluded. At Rocket J6, Gundogan to Benrahma or Rafinha? What do you feel?
Just for the interest of context, this question was put onto the show before Benrahma scored 100 points against.
Way before.
So I'm just going to say Benrahma now. Yeah, like I'm definitely buying Benrahma for Buendia. So
Yeah.
I think
You
Rafinha.
need Ben Rama in your life after he's facing who is it next? Palace and Southampton.
Palace and then Southampton. So
Oh,
I think
wow.
you're talking Rafinha's got Burnley. It's appealing. They're a bit weak down that left back side with Charlie Taylor and Dwight Neal. We've already spoke about that in previous weeks. But then he's got Liverpool. He's got the travel to Brazil. He's got possible isolation if it needs to happen. We don't have these issues with Ben Rama. Jump on him. Avoid the issue.
I agree. So my next question is, we're on the Q&A live from the chat. What are your live questions, guys? Because we're at 1 hour 40. I'm going to make sure we cut the show in 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to ask anything you want from me and Hibbo. We will give you the brutal truth, no matter what the question is, in the next 5 minutes.
Right, so here's Nahal. He's saying, should I just give in and go to Greenwood for Barnes? It's the only mistake in my team. I wouldn't sell Barnes before Norwich.
No, not before Norwich. Not even close.
No way.
No way. Not for me. Tierney to Regulion? Neha? If Tierney's ruled out, why not? On my team, I'd be saving 1 million and downgrading to a 4 mil defender. We saw the transfer trends this week. All the most popular transfers in are 4 mil defenders. I'd just bank that 1 million and consider it as a future move.
I agree. I think if Nahal didn't have somebody like maybe Luke Ayling, I would go down as well and try and save the money.
Yeah, I'd save the money, man. Because that 1 million could mean so much more later. Who do you fancy from the Wolves attack? Jimenez Gameweek 4 or Traore if he doesn't leave? What about you?
Jimenez, I think.
Yeah, Jimenez. I'd go for him as an alternative to a DCL or a Bamford.
It's hard to
If you
squeeze them.
feel brave.
It's hard to squeeze them all on, but I do agree.
It is a tough one. Son and Brownhill or Ben. You got to think Ben Rama and Greenwood over a Son and Brownhill, surely, because you're not like, unless he means starting Brownhill. Like if he means benching Brownhill, that's a different story. But if he means starting them both, like
Regardless what he's doing, the second pair.
yeah, Ben Rama and Greenwood now.
Would you get Maupay if he's fit? I wouldn't buy a Maupay on a month of Sundays.
We spent multiple weeks saying we do not care for Mopai. Yeah, that's not going to change from 6 points here or there. Away to Brighton. Not very good, Anthony. Not very good.
Do you
But
think
still
so?
buy him if you have no other fires.
Do you know what?
I
Do
reckon
you
he's
know
got
what?
an 8-pointer in him max.
But then DCL nearly always kind of has an 8-pointer max. He's
Yeah,
kind of.
that's the ceiling.
He seems like a kind of low enough ceiling player. But what I will say about DCL is, at Brighton, I thought Brighton struggled against Burnley whenever they've got aggressive big players, and I think if the ball's in the air, which is what DCL, it's meat and drink, I wouldn't rule them out.
No, I agree. But I think what I will say is like, it is a tough game. I know Brighton's defenders are out, but they had the best defensive stats at home last season of any club in the Premier League. So for me, like I wouldn't be like selling, say, like a Tony to get to DCL. You probably got to take 2 free transfers to get there. I can't imagine anyone getting from Tony to DCL in 1 free transfer. I wouldn't be selling an Ings before Brentford. So who are you selling, right?
I totally agree and all that. I want to do Ings to DCL next week. That's kind of pre-booked in my head. Here's one from Nick. So he's saying everyone ignoring Son. There were the sound bites from Nuno where I think Son disappeared from the warm-up before the match against Wolves. He played the match, he came off in 71 minutes. It's strapping on his leg and there was chatting about maybe some kind of muscle injury. So I think that's enough doubt in people's mind. I think people were interested in moving from Salah to Son because of the doubt about Salah, but also because they were lacking a captaincy option. Now, are you going to make that move, Nima? If it was
No,
you?
man. Like both Bruno and Greenwood are great captaincy options. Antonio, after what I've seen from the last 2 weeks, he's a fucking fantastic captaincy option. I'm not going to be moving to Sun solely for a captain. That's what I'm going to say. Like maybe before I thought about that, but there's enough options for me to pick a captain to not panic and move, because How can you sell Greenwood on back-to-back goals in my circumstances to
No
get
way.
to a Son? I can't.
No way. What's the next question? Would you transfer on Banrama?
To avoid a price rise.
I'm just checking FPL stats here.
Is he actually rising tonight? Let me check. Like, surely he's not rising tonight. Normally,
FPL stats is well buggy with ads this year.
yeah, like basically, there's a lot of wildcards active between Game Week 2 and 3. So any numbers I see are lies. Antonio, Benrahma, Lukaku, Tsimikas, and Amity are all rising tonight, apparently.
I might buy Banrama before I go to bed.
It looks like he may rise. There are a lot of price drops. I reckon most of them are wrong. There's like 4 pages of price drops when I click through. That doesn't look right to me. Yeah, that's a tough one. Benrahma. I wouldn't be selling Greenwood either way. That's for sure.
So this is Tom Stevenson. He's saying, where does Greenwood play next game and how many minutes?
Sancho probably starts, so that means Greenwood probably moves to centre forward, and Martial gets dropped because he was fucking horrendous.
How far off's Cavani?
I don't know if we'll see Cavani till post-international break. That's my thinking here.
And even then, is he going to travel? Like if he travels to South America?
That's what I mean. Like if he travels, how much further back does that set him?
Because I saw a thing today where like Martinez and Buendia are both called up by Argentina and it looks like they're going, and people were saying they could maybe be ruled out if there's no changes in the red list thing, so I don't know how that would impact Cavani, but I'm not too worried about Greenwood's minutes, if I'm being totally honest with you at the minute. I kind of jumped on him very much with a mindset that I like that block of 6 fixtures, and I'm happy to kind of roll the dice, and like where I've gone now with Greenwood is he's more or less matched Bruno piss for piss. I'm happy.
By the way, Anthony's very right here. So Martial could just move to left wing and Pogba back to CM.
I think Martial drop out of side altogether.
Yeah, like what he did. I don't think that convinced anyone of his starting 11 credentials.
That's what Nick's saying. I don't think they gave Martial a go to see what he could do. I think, and I don't think he'll start the next match.
No, I don't think so either. We're at 1 hour 47. I think unless there's any other burning questions, we are probably done here. How do you feel about it?
No, that's grand. I think call it dead. Sounds good.
We will. On that note, guys, there's 39 views, probably the biggest concurrent views we've had all night. If you are here, please look at the YouTube link later. There is the Football Content Awards. Please vote for us in the video category of fantasy football. It would mean a lot to us. In the meantime, you can watch me embarrass myself one last time. Tom Stevenson was in the episode a few weeks ago. Next week, we have Big Man Bakar coming on Tuesday. But I'm going to announce one more special fucking guest for all of you. Because trust me, FPL Pikachu, FPL Scarface, FPL Nima. All these alter egos, they're bound to know someone, right? You know who the big man is coming off the big man? It is at Ben Dinnery. For me, 3-4 years ago, this is the number one guy in FPL. Outside of Ben Krellin, Ben Dinnery, these are the two guys who run the FPL world. So I hope you enjoyed that, Big Man Bakar episode. I hope you enjoyed our Ben Krellin episode. There are some incredible guests coming after those two guys, but for now, vote fucking net that hole in the Football Content Awards, guys, and enjoy me embarrassing myself. Hit like, hit subscribe, download the pod, and leave a fucking review on Apple. We love you guys.
Definitely our most popular member of the Net That Hall crew, and you can definitely be our 5th crewmate now going forwards. Definitely be our 5th crewmate now going forwards.
Hello, darkness, my old
So,
friend.
just while we're here as well, guys, so please do continue